Hello, ladies and gents. Welcome. Hello, ladies and gents. Welcome to Dennis Saliba, Occult and Fortean, and we are back yet for another stream. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about Ahriman, Rudolph Steiner, and the demon face of the 9/11 Twin Tower attacks. Now, before I begin the stream, I do recommend that people have something close to them for spiritual protection, be it like a crucifix, be it a little jar of salt, be it whatever belief system that you believe in. Unfortunately for me today, I have misplaced my fervor, so I'm going to have to burn 1 or 2 incense sticks a bit later. I think that should still contain it, given that we are discussing these things. Now, the reason why I always suggest protection before any of these types of discussions is, first of all, any discussion involving the name of the entity can actually summon it, because it's like when you, it's like, for example, you buy and sell from a company, and then you buy and sell from Amazon, and Amazon is an entity, Amazon is a legal entity, and by doing the transaction, you can buy and sell from Amazon. Well, the same thing applies to the spirit world, is that the name of an entity can summon the energy of that being, because it's like knocking on the door and then they come over to you. Likewise with these things, even if they're like a neutral nature spirit or something like that, I don't recommend doing any bargains or any pleas or any deals with them. So that's just a bit of like spiritual housekeeping, I guess. If you do want to support my work, I do not monetize this channel. I do not use a PayPal link. Instead, I have my consulting and my art channels, which do have a PayPal link linked. I'm going to have to actually make up a new one. And I'm also in the process of getting a Discord for the art server set up, possibly a Discord for the business consulting service set up. I'll see how things go. Coopers United, let's go. Hello, Wheels. Nice to see you. Let's get started with today's topic. Got to do some law dropping, crazy stuff. Law dropping. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Where's the Ahriman? Okay, so who is Ahriman first of all? Ahriman is the spirit of evil, chaos, destruction, also the devas, which funnily enough is also a similar word shared under Hinduism as well. So basically, a devar is a Zoroastrian supernatural entity which is disagreeable or with disagreeable characteristics. In the Gathas, the oldest texts of the Zoroastrian canon, the devas are the gods that are rejected gods and demigods. This meaning is subject to interpretation and perhaps evidence in the old Persian Daiva description. So basically, this is an ancient Persian archdemon, and the English equivalent would be Ahrimanes, but Ahriman is definitely cited within Rudolph Steiner's work, and he does talk about him in at least a couple of his books. So basically, in Zoroastrianism and the Gathas, which are the oldest texts of Zoroastrianism, this is all Wikipedia information too, by the way. I strongly recommend you do your own research and you come to your own conclusions. The purpose of only using Wikipedia is to give you some background information. Angla Mainu is not yet a proper name. In one instance, these hymns appear together of the mind or the spirit or otherwise an abstract energy that is angra, destructive, chaotic, disorderly, or inhibitive, malignant, malign, etc. The manifestation can be anger. So in a single instance in Yasna, this must be a Zoroastrian text. More bounteous of the spirits twain, declares Anga Mainu. the emphasis. Hence, I'm going to skip the verses because I'm not too familiar with Zoroastrianism. Hence, aka Manu is the evil spirit, the evil mind, or the evil thought, as contrasted with Spenta Manu, or the bounteous spirit, of which Ahura Mazda conceived of the creation or the was. So I guess a Christian equivalent, again, this would be your shaitan or your Satan. Now remember that Satan and shaitan are not the same thing. Shaitan in Arabic and Hebrew can be pluralized. You can have many titles of an entity which are shaitan. Shaitans just means anti or enemy. And it does not translate the same way into English as Satan, because Satan is a singular form in English. It's always wise to go into the original root languages of these beings when you research them, because little details like that do matter. Same as when people talk about Jehovah. There is no J in Hebrew. So it's basically more like a Yehovah if you're talking about Yehovah. On my channel, my belief is that Jehovah is the demiurge, arch lord, god, demon being. He basically tricked everyone in the Old Testament pretending to be God. That's my interpretation of it, and I do stick by that. So people might say I'm deceived or whatever, but whatever, I don't care. Let's move on to Rudolph Steiner. Who is Rudolph Steiner? This is from the Rudolph Steiner web. Basically, Rudolph Steiner, there he is there. He is a very, very, very highly accomplished occultist, androposopist, and there is a group of Rudolph Steiner schools based off this man. So if you ever hear the title, Rudolph Steiner schools, they're talking about this man. So basically, this website is a compilation of all of his works. He's one of the most significant occultists of all time in the last century. He's created and published over 330 volumes on various topics. And he has a lot of different topics. So he has a biography. He talks about anthroposophy, epistemology, anthroposophical work, Waldorf education, biodynamic agriculture, religion, science, eurythmy, economics, art, drama, architecture, therapy, politics, anthroposophy, and what anthroposophy is. There's other contemporaries to him. So it's a very comprehensive website. It's a little bit about some of his work. Let's look into a little bit about his biography before we start looking at the 9/11 demon faces. Now, Rudolph Joseph Lorenz Steiner was born on the 27th or the 25th of February, 1861. Records are not exactly the clearest about that. 30th of March, 1925. And he is basically considered part of New Age. I don't think that's true. He predates the New Age. Guru, philosopher, occultist, social reformer, architect, esotericist, also a named clairvoyant, a little bit like what's his name? Edgar Cayce, the German or a German equivalent of Edgar Cayce with his clairvoyance. And he's basically written just so many books, but basically he talks about elements of German idealism, theosophy, Christian Gnosticism, neo-Gnosticism, pseudo-history or the realm of pseudo-history, and he talks about science, spirituality, or a spiritual science he tries to coin, and he talks about a lot of things. Basically, he was also inspired by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe and his worldview that thinking is no more and less an organ of the perception of the eye and ear. Thinking is beyond. It is an esoteric pursuit. It involves higher elements of the human soul, higher elements of the human being outside of the physical, and the perception of ideas is constant in the sense that human knowledge is constant and comes from a higher force, such as the ether. That's the epistemology he talks about. Unfortunately, theosophy does get a bad rap because theosophy was, I guess, partially influenced, and it was the core, one of the core philosophies used within the creation of the Nazi party movement, which was an offshoot of theosophy. An offshoot of theosophy came under the Theosophical, not the Theosophical Society. Get my words mixed. The the Thule Society is an offshoot of the Theosophical Society, and they get blamed for creating the Nazi party. So let's go into the 9/11 demon face. There's a couple of demon faces that if you go and zoom in, you will see upon the destruction of one of the towers, you see what looks like horns and a crown. There's a snarly, smirky face, snarly, smirky face, snarly, smirky eyes with a bit of a crown there. There's the explosion, but that's not the main picture I wanted to show. That's one of them, though. There is more than one demon face, which I suspect that 9/11 itself is a ritual, and it was a ritual designed to collapse the, and I'm with Thomas Sheridan on this. This is a inspired by Thomas Sheridan's work as well. It collapses the analog world, and this is the switch into the digital world. That's why the two towers had to go. It is the destruction of two and the emerging of two into one, which is the analog binary into the digital singular, the singularity. That's what my interpretation of it is. I'm trying to find the ugly demon face. Now, this is very interesting, this face. This is when the tower itself was completely destroyed. It looks like that the demon has closed its eyes. It is resting. It's got the gnarly teeth out there. According to this source, this was actually taken by one of the journalists from CNN. And this is from, I guess, what seems to be the right-hand side of World Trade Center Tower number 7, or building number 7 to the side. And this looks like that the demon or the entity is pleased. It's had the ritual done to it. The ritual has been completed, and that it's basically been very successful at collapsing the reality. Wow, scary, says Copers. Yeah, it is scary stuff. And it gets scarier when you see the level of clairvoyance that a certain Rudolph Steiner has. And also when he talks about Ahriman, I'm going to find some of his Ahriman quotes, because he does warn about this. I didn't, I should have been more prepared. But bear in mind that anything related to paganism, that there are two Lucifers. There is the Lucifer, the teacher under paganism, and a lot of people say that the Lucifer from Christianity is a mistranslation of pagan Lucifer, and this comes from linguistic errors made by Sir Francis Bacon and also the likes of King James. So it's not always black and white, depending on which perspective you take. And I'm not sticking up for one or the other. I'm just saying that it's not always black and white. Look into the linguistics yourself. Look into deep esoteric study yourself. Come to your conclusions. Don't be deceived by me either. There are times when I can be deceived. Don't be deceived by me either. Question me. All I'm doing is I'm just showing you the connections that I see, and then I highly encourage anyone on my show to always make their own conclusions. That's just the purpose of the show. So the influences of Lucifer and Ahriman quotes. This is from one of Rudolph Steiner's books about the Earth and the rise of Ahriman. He poses the question, what is it that arises in modern people in an Ahrimanic form? It is his knowledge of the outer world, the sciences. There is nothing more Ahrimanic than his knowledge of the material world, for it is sheer illusion. So basically, by focusing only on the external world, you are ignoring the spiritual world. As they say, as without, as within, or as within, as without. Basically, what happens in the heavens, what happens in the spirit world inside your spirit, materializes into the physical. That is not the other way around. What happens in the physical world does not always materialize in the spiritual. And that type of person who focuses exclusively on the external world tends to be how you tell if someone is a Heilig or an NPC. They are very materialistically focused, and I'm not talking about a business context. In general, just daily living, daily life in general. Their impulses are purely driven by the external world. They are motivated by the external world, and then there is nothing into them internally, no internal monologue. That's the danger of the Ahrimanic mindset, and this is what Rudolph Steiner warned about as far back as 1919. Again, what wells up in our most inner being, in our inmost being today, is very strongly Luciferic. How can we train ourselves rightly in this direction? Pagan Lucifer, the light bringer, the teacher, bringer of enlightenment, as opposed to worldliness from paganism, by diving into it within our Ahrimanic nature, that is to say, by trying to avoid all illusions about our inner life and impulses, and observing ourselves just as we observe the outer world. Modern people must realize how urgent it is to educate themselves in this way. Anyone who has an observant eye in these matters will often come across circumstances which the following is an example. So that's the MO of Ahriman, is that he forces you to be more materialistically focused, and he forces you to be more basically externally driven and focused on controlling your external life, not so much the internal life. And funnily enough, if I were to draw another parallel to Nepalese Hinduism, Lord Ravana, the chief of the demons of Nepalese demons, he's like the chief demon, the father of the demons. He himself is the greatest scientist of all time. Lord Ravana, funnily enough, like Ahriman, is basically the greatest scientist of all time. Now, there are a couple of warnings about the rise of Ahriman, which I want to go back to the 9/11 demon face for a moment. This is the picture I've showed before. This is the most clear version of it. And I want to draw a direct comparison to, this is from the New York Times, I think, 2011 posting, obviously after 9/11. But as you can see, it's got the triangular beard. It's got the beard. It's got the horns, left horn, the crown. I had the suspicion that that's a crown. This is a crown prince entity. And then the other horn is sort of buried within the smoke and the flame. But funnily enough, Ahriman is also said to be a demon of the air. And what happened in 9/11? Well, at least in the official narrative, aircraft landed into the buildings. And it is through the air and the winds of change in which chaos came. And the destruction of the old was bound in the chaos of the destruction of the old world. And then the binary two, male, female, left, right, duality was destroyed, and then they replaced it with one single tower, signaling the rise of what I suspect is the singularity. So this is just a little bit of a blurb about the demon face, or the devil face. Let me go up. The devil face that many saw in the building smoke within seconds. after flight 175. That's interesting because 175 in numerology is 6 and 7, or 7 and 6. You could also make the case that that is 11 as well. Flight 175. 5, 7, 11, 1, 1, 11. It matches. Building 1 of 11. Smashed into the South Tower, and almost certainly not photoshopped. It is there, fully visible in the AP photo above, as well as on CNN feed archived on YouTube. You can watch CNN archives of this, hovering below the point of impact around the 70th floor. I'm not sure what the significance of the 70th floor is. It could be, I'm saying it could be, the 7th ether, the 7th level of the tree of death, but I'm not 100% sure of what that is, the 70th in occultism. But also George W. Bush did have an address saying that today our nation saw evil. Funnily enough, there's also another clip of George W. Bush saying that the metal birds will fly. The metal birds will fly long before the event will occur, which is the classical Satanist MO. Basically, the classical Satanist MO is you announce your plans prior in advance to describe your intention. You launch your intention into the metaphysical space, and then the physical space will follow up on that. And that's how a lot of the core aspects of the rituals work, that they have to announce the rituals ahead of time. And when they announce the rituals ahead of time, they do not receive direct karma because you consented, because you had that knowledge. And then you may not be able to decipher it in a meaningful way, but when the events happen, you have to accept that reality indirectly in the sense that if you are not able to rebuke it, then you cannot stop that ritual from occurring. Now, these are the sculptures of Ahriman himself from Rudolph Steiner, which I want you to compare directly with the demon face. This is him. Detail from the plaster model for Rudolph Steiner's statue titled "The Representative of Man Above in the Cosmos," and the wood version of the final statue. This is very similar to the 9/11 face, which was also pointed out on the Joe Rogan show. The 9/11 demon face. There's the beard, there's the ear, there's the crown. I suspect that that's a crown because this is a principality. The horn on the left, the horn on the right, and other elements of the crown, and the smug lips, the very androgynous smug lips. And then there's another statue of Ahriman elsewhere as well. The representative of man. Oh, we'll look at these. So this is about a 24-foot high wooden statue displayed at Gortanum Dornach. So as you can see, it looks a little bit like a tower. It kind of, funnily enough, it looks a little bit like a tower. And you see these principalities, and there's the Luciferic man. That's meant to be Lucifer. That's not Ahriman. It looks like Lucifer, the Statue of Liberty. And you see these little principalities flying in front of the statue. So that's a little bit about the statue and the comparison there. Let me find the Ahriman sculpture from Steiner. Full crazy post, this one. But I'm not the only one that's covered this issue. Other people have covered this issue as well. This is it. This is what Ahriman's supposed to look like. This is Ahriman with his very closed eyes and his deep thinking bald head. And then he's got the kind of like the beard, almost like a demon beard, but with the pointed ears and the demon beard, the disapproving, scrutinous looking face. And there he is again over the statue. Now, interestingly enough, when Rudolph Steiner made the Ahriman statue, he actually started to feel ill when he made the Ahriman statue. It's very interesting how that works. Cynic. All right. I'm going to use a secondhand source because I can't find the primary source today. I'm going to go onto a secondhand source now. Sadly, guys, I can't find his work without having to go through to the Rudolph Steiner archive. I might have to go to the archive a bit afterwards. This is a secondhand source. This is by Sayink, 23rd of June, 2025. Just a short read. A century ago, an Austrian philosopher, he's got my bloodline. I'm an Austrian too, half Austrian, named Rudolf Steiner made a startling connection. He said that humanity was approaching the incarnation of a spiritual being he called Ahriman, a force that would seduce the human soul into forgetting its own nature through the perfection of rational materialism. The external world, sorcery, technology, transhumanism, transgenderism. You see how this all connects. Steiner wasn't speaking metaphorically. He meant an actual being would take physical form in the West, appearing as humanity's greatest benefactor while systematically destroying everything that makes us human. This entity wouldn't come with obvious evil, no horns, no hellfire. Instead, Ahriman would arrive wearing the mask of progress itself. So you could make the case that this is another incarnation of one of the aspects of Lord Ravana. Because Lord Ravana from Hinduism is the chief, greatest scientist of all time, but also so focused only on the material world that there's no room for spiritual growth. According to Steiner's vision, Ahriman represents the crystallizing force in existence, what turns the flowing river of consciousness into ice. Ice cold focused thinking, ice cold focused rationality. And humans would begin to see themselves as nothing more than biological machines, and their thoughts as mere brain chemistry, the deepest experiences as evolutionary accidents with no ultimate meaning, which is nihilism and reductionism, which is still scary. And the reason why it's scary is because if you're not able to affirm that you have a spirit, you're basically revoking your legal rights in the spiritual world, telling the entities that, yes, you can enter. You can enter because I deny myself as a spirit and I'm emptying myself as a biological machine. Therefore, you are invited to come in to possess me. Both paganism, Christianity, and the Abrahamic religions all affirm that. All of them affirm that. All of them. So it's not about a monopoly of the religions or cosmology in this case. There is deeper forces at work. Let me find the warning about Ahriman, and I want to show you the V warning from Steiner himself. Let me see if there's a short clip instead of the full long clip. There's a long one. There's a 10-minute video. That's AI slop though. Sorry guys, I didn't come as prepared as I thought I was. Today's not going to be a long stream either. Today's going to be more of a just a specific topic today. Trying to find this, but basically an entity like Ahriman will bring out the end of times or the Kali Yuga basically. Let me see if there's, oh yeah, this is a primary source. There's a primary source right here. This is quite buried compared to before. It's quite horrifyingly buried. Does anyone have any questions or comments that they want to add to the stream so far? I know I'm ranting and rambling like a madman. Does anyone have any questions or comments that they have about this particular being? Because we've talked about Pazuzu already, my experiences with Pazuzu. Let's go on to some more notes, and then I'll build up to the primary source. I think that's much better that way. So you have the breakdown, and then we're going to go from the breakdown to the primary source. Steiner's incarnation of Ahriman explained clearly. Okay, so the book is The Ahrimanic Deception, Lucifer, Ahriman, Asuras, which is another word for demon. That's the demons of Buddhism. The Fall of the Spirits of Darkness, the Apocalypse of St. John. Okay, so as characterized by anthroposophy, not anthropology, anthroposophy, for Steiner, Ahriman is not merely a symbol of evil or darkness in a simple or allegorical sense. He is a real spiritual being, or the leader of a host of beings possessing immense intelligence and power, but working in opposition to the progressive, forward-moving spiritual evolution of humanity intended by the guiding divine hierarchies, plural, hierarchies. Ahriman's fundamental impulse is a hardening contraction of materialism, binding your spirit to the earth, cold, calculating intellect, an intelligence devoid of heart, feeling, and living connection, the spirit of pure mechanization and computation. Sounds a little bit like Atlantis, the fall of Atlantis. Materialism, the force that seeks to convince humanity that the only physical or physically perceptible, weighable, measurable world is the 3D, the real, denying the existence of a soul and a spirit. A soul and a spirit is not the same thing. A spirit is part of your crown chakra. You have a spirit body which is tied to your current form. So example, Dennis's soul spirit has a Dennis mind. The Dennis mind is driven by the Dennis mind body. And then above that, there is the collective soul, that is the Dennis, Lao, Hungarian, Austrian combination of many lived experiences in my bloodlines and my ancestors' bloodlines and their ancestors' bloodlines, and that relationship and the connection of all of human spiritual and psychic experience, the collective soul. That's the collective soul. Hello, Psycho Mind. Good to see you. How you doing, sir? Yo. We're talking about Ahriman, Psycho Mind, and Rudolph Steiner's analysis of this Ahriman character and how I think he's one of the forces of he's a demiurgic force, but he's also pre-demiurgic in the sense that he comes from Mesopotamia. And this is a very, very ancient entity that I think is one of the facets or aspects of Lord Ravana as well, because him and Lord Ravana of Hinduism have very similar MOs, modus operandi. Ahriman is the master of deception grounded in apparent facts, spreading error disguised as science, transhumanism, fostering illusions based on sense-bound evidence, and obscuring spiritual realities and physical ones too, I'm going to add. Encourages that thinking that remains on the surface, unable to penetrate the deeper essence of things, like the rise of the normie, the rise of the Heilig, the rise of the NPC. He seeks to chain human consciousness entirely to the earthly physical realm, drawing it into the sub-physical or the sub-natural, making the human spirit essentially a sophisticated automaton or a completely developed animal but devoid of its spiritual core. So pagan Lucifer works through the human astral body and the sentient soul, not the Christian Lucifer, pagan Lucifer. He tempts humanity away from the earth in a premature illusionary spirituality, cosmic inflation, pride fantasy, subjective feeling, and escaping earthly responsibilities. Lucifer inspires a passionate, fanatical, but often unstable impulses that, hey, come on, man, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, kind of thinking. His influence was strongest in the Lemurian epoch and the pre-Christian cultures. Ahriman works primarily through the human etheric body or the physical life forces of intellect soul, the mind soul. He is a mind soul entity, works through the airwaves, influencing thinking, tempts humanity downwards, binding exclusively to the physical material, promoting cold, deadening intellect, rigid systems like the Rockefeller Foundation and God's Bank and the Jesuits and the Knights Templar, the Dame of the Order of the Knights Templar, Queen Elizabeth II, and the Vatican, and the pyramid. That's what the pyramid is. It's the superstructure. Lies presented as facts, fear, and Philistinism, and that's interesting. The connection, the Philistines, and the Carthaginian connection. There is a Philistinian, Carthaginian connection there, if you watch HK's channel. This is very heavily tied to Gaza as well, because in the past, what was modern day Gaza used to be Philistia, and Philistia was the Roman name for the Philistines, meaning uncultured one. Didn't know there were two Lucifers. There is two Lucifers depending on the source. A lot of people say that the pagan Lucifer is a mistranslation in the King James Bible under Francis Bacon, and that it was a mistranslation from Greek into Latin, Greek sources into Latin, whereas the Lucifer, pagan Lucifer, predates those sources, hence why people are like, oh, Lucifer, which Lucifer? But it would be fair to say that Lucifer is the Statue of Liberty. It's not a Lady Liberty. It's a man. The Statue of Liberty is a man. It's an androgynous, beautiful-looking man, which is Lucifer. Ahriman inspires dryness, calculation, and the denial of spirit. That sounds a lot like a lot of atheism as well. My warning about atheism in the sense that atheism gives these entities a form of plausible deniability. Basically, if I say demons can't exist because the 3D world is the only reality, the demons can get away with anything because you're saying that they don't exist. They have plausible deniability for their actions, like in a spiritual courthouse. And that's how you have to think about a lot of the spirit world. Is a lot of it is a lot like a big spiritual courthouse. I'm not going to read all that. I just wanted to look into the notes. I might post that in the occult section of the Schizo Occult department, headed by probably me. And let's go into the primary source now. That's a subscription. Let's go to the primary source now. Lol, the Man of Liberty. Yep, the Man of Liberty is the androgynous Lucifer. So it is a man. It is a man. It is Libertas. Libertas is the spirit of Lucifer. Liberty. All right, this is from Zurich. This is the Ahrimanic deception. It's very wordy, but I do want to skip further down. If I can't skip further down, then is this an archive? Steiner Online Library. Okay, this is probably an archive source then. It's quite wordy, but I do want to talk about these. Oh, this is really wordy. All right. So basically the gist is Lucifer brought out poetry, creativity into the times of the pre-Christian millennium, and he took over Asia. It is revealed with the retrospect of the clairvoyant gaze that this is an actual human incarnation of Luciferic power. So the energy of Lucifer, not the entity of Lucifer. This is the energy. And this incarnation of Lucifer in humanity, which in a certain way has been achieved, was the origin of the widely extended ancient wisdom based on the third post-Atlantean civilization, which is ancient Greece. There was still an altar effect even in Grecian times, that's the Greeks, of the widespread cultural impulse that was derived from this Asiatic Luciferic human being, Luciferic wisdom and its utmost benefit to man, was in that epoch of evolution, brilliant in a certain way, graduated according to the different peoples and races which it is spread, which is much like today. We live under the Roman, post-Roman Empire. We live under the Roman sea admiral. We live under Roman maritime law, which is the unity of the sea of peoples. Even in the chat, there's a unity of the sea of peoples. That's how you know we are in the post-Roman world and the current admiralty law, sea, maritime law, admiralty law, the sea, the ocean, the compass, the north, the east, the south, and the west. You see how it all ties together now. It was plainly recognizable throughout the whole of Asia than in the Egyptian civilization, the Babylonian civilization, and even the culture of Greece. Came the mystery of Golgotha. So he's talking about Christian esotericism here. I'm gonna skip forward. It would be, actually maybe I shouldn't. It would be, of course, be extraordinarily Philistine to wish to say that was an incarnation of Lucifer, hence we must flee from it. Such Philistinism could make one flee from the beauty and greatness that has come to mankind from this Luciferic form, which is the creative impulse, just describing the creative teaching impulse. For the fruits of Greek culture, with all their beauty, proceeded, as originally said, from the stream of evolution. The whole of Gnostic thought existing at the time of the mystery of Golgotha, the time of Christ, was an impressive wisdom shedding light deep into cosmic realities, while this new whole Gnostic knowledge was inspired by impulse coming from Luciferic forces. One must not say that Gnostic thought is therefore false, which I'm not claiming it is. On this channel, I don't claim Gnosticism to be false. I just don't claim Gnosticism to be the endpoint. One is merely characterizing it by saying that it is permeated by the Luciferic forces, which is the, again, enlightenment, light, creativity, impulse, a little tinge of hedonism, a little tinge. Then considerably more than 2,000 years after the Luciferic incarnation came the mystery of Golgotha, the place where Jesus was crucified. It may be said that the men among whom the impulse of this mystery spread was still fully imbued in their thinking and feeling with what had come from the impulse of Lucifer, and now entered the evolution of civilized humanity, an entirely different impulse, the impulse proceeding from the Christ impulse, the Christos in Greek, the Christos, the Christ impulse. We've often spoken of what Christ impulse signifies when within civilized humanity, the Christ impulse, I will only touch on this today, was taken up by the hearts and minds that I have just characterized. One might say that it's shown into all the best that came to man from Lucifer and in the first Christian centuries. Man understood the Christ, what they had received from Lucifer. These things must be faced without prejudice. Otherwise, it is not really possible to understand the particular way in which the Christ impulse was received in the first centuries of our era. Very interesting discussion there. Now we're going to go to the contrast. The impulses entering humanity from a Luciferic source sank gradually down into the soul. On the other hand, however, another impulse, which we call the Ahrimanic, growing stronger and stronger in modern times with materialism and dialectism and what you see a lot in the occult with the problem, reaction, solution. That's all of the dialectism. It will become increasingly strong in the near future and on into future ages. The Ahrimanic impulse proceeds from the super-sensible, so hyper-rational, being different from the being of Christ or Lucifer. Equally with super-sensible, one can say sub-sensible. That is not the point here. The influence of this being comes equally powerful in the fifth age. We're in the fifth age, fifth post-Atlantean epoch. If we look at the confused conditions of recent years, we shall find that men have been brought to such chaotic conditions, mainly through the Ahrimanic powers. This is the warning that I wanted to give. On the other hand, so we have the two poles, the Luciferic and then the Ahrimanic. The Luciferic and the Ahrimanic are continuously present in man. Viewed historically, we find that the Luciferic preponderated in certain current events of cultural development of the pre-Christian age and continued into the first centuries of our era. On the other hand, the Ahrimanic influence has been at work since the middle of the 15th century. The emergence of Jesuitism, the emergence of the new order of the Knights Templar, and the basis of the Illuminati, which came from the Knights Templar, and will increase in strength until an actual incarnation of Ahriman takes place among Western humanity. So you can listen to all this in the archives. There's also the Rudolph Steiner audio archives as well, where he warns about this. I want to finish off now with the Rudolph Steiner vaccine. I hope I don't get taken down for this. I'm going to say it anyway because it's an occult channel. We don't pull punches on the occult channel. We do not pull punches here. We tell demons and archons and other beings to F off, even if it means we have to use that exact wording. We tell archons, demons, the asuras, the some of the demigods, some of them, not all of them, some of them to off because they should. They should. I'm going to have to download these, unfortunately. There it is. Okay. I'm going to have to download these and then show outside of a Facebook source, I think. So just bear with me, guys. Bear with me. This is very interesting, the Ahrimanic impulse, the Christ impulse, etc. Yes, I can mind, because the timeline is not the timeline we are taught from the public school system or even the private school systems. They are all Vatican controlled. We have to remember, we have to assume that these are Vatican controlled entities, and that the likes of the Rockefeller Foundation, the founders of the modern education system, HarperCollins, also owned by the publishers, also owned by the Rockefeller Foundation, with shares from Rothschild as well, I might add. Disney, not Disney, National Geographic and The Economist are owned by the Rothschild family. They're all owned by the same people. That these things, how do I, just give me a moment. Sorry, I'm being a bit awkward now. But these things are not going to be taught to us because these things are gatekept by the powers that are. That's why they are occulted. Occulted means hidden and concealed in Latin, occultare. So it's much deeper than the external world. The external world, from the sorcerers at the top and the wizards at the top, are trying to tell us what to do with the internal world. And then likewise, we have the internal spark, and we're trying to fight the external world because they own the physical material realm, but they're bound here. They literally cannot ascend. I don't believe for a minute that psychopaths can ascend at all. I think that they're the biggest NPCs of all, like Thomas Sheridan says. I've got to find this quote. I'm trying to get this quote up. Rudolph Steiner vaccine warning. Now, this is written in 1917, this warning here. I'm going to have to open it up in a new tab. Open with new tab. Sorry about that. It took me ages to get. But this is how pharmakia is a big part of this. But not natural law pharmakia, corporatized pharmakia. Eliminate the soul with medicine, written in 1917. In the future, we will, in other words, the collective human spirit, not the androposophists. He's talking about the collective human spirit and the collective powers at the top. In the future, we, the powers at the top, will eliminate the soul with medicine. Under the pretext of a healthy point of view, there will be a vaccine by which the human body will be treated as soon as possible directly at birth, so that the human being cannot develop the thought of the existence of the soul and the spirit. To materialistic doctors will be entrusted with the task of removing the soul of humanity, as today people are vaccinated against this disease or that disease. So in the future, children will be vaccinated with a substance that can be produced precisely in such a way that people, thanks to this vaccination, will be immune to being subject to the madness of spiritual life. He would be extremely smart, but he would not develop a conscience. And that is the true goal of some materialistic circles. With such a vaccine, you can easily make the etheric body loose in the physical body. You're de-soulifying or de-souling the physical body. So basically, you're telling the etheric body to leave, and there's no psychic firewall, and then the demons can come in. Once the etheric body is detached, the relationship between the universe and the etheric body would become extremely unstable. A man would become an automaton, for the physical body of man must be polished on this earth by spiritual will, not by pharmakia, not by this type of hyper-rationalist, materialistic pharmakia. So the vaccine becomes a kind of Ahrimanic force. Man can no longer get rid of a given materialistic feeling. He becomes materialistic of constitution and can no longer rise to the spiritual because they eliminated that aspect. It is so evil. Wow, this is evil. Even to this day, I get called in for the V's from my GP, but I ignore them. Yep, smart move. I took the Novavax myself because it was a traditional protein-based vaccine. There was, to my knowledge, there is no mRNA particles in it. I did the research for like 2 or 3 years prior to the 2020s. And basically, this is what I mean about dating and stuff, even in today's world. How do you date someone who's had that V? How do you know if their soul is still there from the woo-woo supernatural perspective? How do you know that they're not having a demon inhibit them instead? Even if there's a physical body with, like, you know, parts. I'm being serious. Like, sexually transmitted demons is a thing. STDs, sexually transmitted demons. It's not a joke. There's some physical evidence of that I want to cover later in a succubus and a incubus stream, and how to deal with them, and my experiences with Lilith as well. I haven't talked about my experiences with Lilith yet. I will talk about them later. It's my ad. So there was that, and there was one more thing that I wanted to discuss about Ahriman. Was there? No, I think that's it. That might be it. That might be it. Compendiums, Squanta. No. Oh, there was one last clip. Sorry, I'm losing you. There was one last clip. Summoning a demon through quantum computing. This clip is really weird. And it also reminds me of the car and the bar, the car bar, which has a lot of symbolism. The black box, car bar, this thing. Yeah, it's in Islam, but I'm gonna show you guys the symbolism anyway. I remember one time when I was at uni, when the pandemic was on its come down, I was walking down the street and a fellow tried to get me to take a boost out of this small center just behind him. That's evil. That's wrong. I had to skedaddle out of there quickly. I don't blame you. I don't blame you. All right, the black box, the car bar. So you guys know about the car and the bar. We've talked about this in the Discord before. This is in Islam. The car and the bar. The car bar, believed to be this, some kind of holy box with a fragment of a comet of some kind. We don't know what's inside, but I think it's one of the stones of Solomon's temple. and it is made into the Kaaba to be a part of the Saturn cube matrix, which is the clock and connected to the Baal worship. So the Ka, demotic, Egyptian root word. This is going to connect to quantum computing. I'm going to get to this. So we have the Egyptian word for the Ka, which is the root word for the spiritual essence of the life force that distinguishes the living from the dead. This is called the demotic language, not the demonic language, the demotic language, evolved from Egyptian writing and hieroglyphs. And the Ka was believed to continue living after death, much like the Bardo, and could inhabit a statue of the deceased. So not all statues might be inhabited by demons. Some statues and dolls could be inhabited by spirits of dead people. And there are rituals designed to do that. And this is what frightens me about the black box type of technology and why they do what they do. The Ba. The root word of the demotic is from the Greek demotikos, meaning for the people, sacred, or the demos, the people or the district. The Ba demotic, it's not coming up. Popular life force. That's what it translates into, the Ka and the Ba. Popular life force, or brief script, which, funnily enough, what read scripts? Quantum computers read scripts. So do sages, so do mages, so do sorcerers. I want to finish up with the quantum computing clip from Elon Musk.
But Monday.com is different.
All work management
platforms.
And a warning from
Ahrimanic forces trying to stop me. All right, this is a Bloomberg clip, and this is Elon Musk's "We're summoning a demon."
And a warning from Tesla Motors CEO Elon Musk. It has nothing to do with cars. Instead, Musk warns about artificial intelligence, which he has called more dangerous than nuclear weapons. Musk spoke at a symposium at MIT.
I mean, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know all those stories where...
So again, it could be an allegory. I'm not saying they're literally summoning a demon in this case, but I would say that it is kind of eyebrow raising. It could also be an example of classical Satanism again, where you're announcing your plans in advance. There is a revelation of the method. Because you have limited knowledge of the plan in advance, they escape the karma, you pay for their karma, and then because of your ignorance, you're not in the enlightened inner circle, you have to pay for the karma of someone else's sorcery.
Weapons. Musk spoke at a symposium at MIT.
I mean, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, you sure you can control the demon.
Now, that was a taunt. But that blinking of the eye was actually for a specific member of the inner circle to signal the next plan.
Didn't work out.
I take it there will be no HAL 9000 going up to Mars.
HAL 9000 would be easy. It's way more complex than, to put HAL 9000 to shame. Yeah.
And that's a very interesting choice of name, HAL 9000. Why 9000? Why 9000? Why hell? Again, very interesting. 7, 8, 9. That clip was a bit later. As we saw, the 70th floor was where the demon face came out of. And then there was the 8 and then the 9. That was the 9000th. So that's the 9th ether. They're saying that it's easier than the summoning of the demon. Yes, they have to showcase what they are doing. So Psycho Mind, yeah, they do. So this is why I listen to people like Thomas Sheridan and others, because they give me a lot of insight. I learned so much from Hyperborean Knowledge and Thomas Sheridan and others. but I also try to draw my own analysis as well. And like, I'm not hyper knowledgeable. I'm in my neophyte stage. I'm still learning, but I align myself with my blood soul memory, which is my blood soul spirit of my ancestors from Laos, Hungary, Austria. I'm going to add Germany in there as well, because Germany had taken parts of Austria as well back in the days of the Holy Roman Empire. There is a cross connection as well. A little bit of the Franks have a connection there too. Let's look at two last clips. I want to show you guys frequency and the ants around the mobile phone clip. It's a very short clip. Yeah, this is crazy. Okay, this is crazy, but I want to show you something quite scientific now. I should try to keep up with more of your streams, Dennis. And yes, we're all learning, says Psycho Mind. I appreciate that, Psycho Mind. I appreciate your kindness and your support and your enthusiasm for the show, and your support and your encouragement, because I do get discouraged, don't get me wrong. I might be full-on crazy, like massive, you know, like China military build-up style with my energy, but deep down there are times when I get discouraged. I'm not gonna lie. Hello 2X, how are you doing, man? Good to see you on board, 2X, one of my OGs. How you doing, my friend? So this is what the Kaaba reminds me of, and quantum computing reminds me of. This is a mobile phone around ants, representing like the cattle, and this is like the Kaaba. Watch this. Look at what the ants are doing. They're following the exact frequency to a T. It's creating a circle, it's creating a spiral, it's creating a portal, its own portal. Let's go back. Let's look at the nice example of this as well. Yeah, here we go. You just wake up. This is the, whoops, this is the tawaf. To compare. Notice the circular movement. Notice the opening of the portal. And the hymn creates a certain frequency, which is creating that certain reality. You just woke up, says 2X. I hope you're doing better, man. I know grief is not an easy thing. I hope you're doing better. I'm still dealing with grief of my mentor and my teacher from cadets. One of my teachers and mentor from cadets basically self-deleted. And he left a family behind, a wife and a kid. And I've been repressing that grief for 9 years. And Remembrance Day and Armistice Day basically brought it up, actually. Let's finish off with one last quote. And this is the Nikola Tesla quote, a classic. Can't go wrong with the classics. Nikola Tesla quote on energy, frequency, and is it wavelength? I think it's wavelength. Energy, vibration. Yeah, vibration here. Okay, this is going to get scientific now. Psycho Mind. I'm sorry, Dennis. I appreciate that. Have you posted that second clip in the Occult channel? Which second clip? The one about the tawaf, or the one about the summoning the demon, or the other clip? I'm not sure which clip you're referring to. Psycho Mind. You're still not okay. Don't fight the grief, 2X. Don't fight the grief. Just take the grief step by step at a time. There's no shortcut for grief. Grief is like one of those forces, like swimming pool, then you just have to swim through it to get to the other side. 3, 6, and 9. Nikola Tesla, 3, 6, and 9. If you want to find the secret of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. This is how the powers at the top think. They do not think about the 3D physical realm. They think about the etheric frequency, energy, vibration, all the way up to the cosmos with their astrology down below. Watch this. All of these will now harmonize with one another.
Okay.
So when you do not vibe with someone, you literally, on a scientific basis, can literally not vibe with someone. I'm going to show you one more example. Resonator with rice. The resonator with rice experiment. Vibration. Oh my gosh. All this AI slop is oh, here it is. All this AI slop is juicing me. The Tawa, the previous clip. Okay, yeah, I can post that. I can post it in a pre-recorded video, and then I can get you to make comparisons. That might be the best format, PsychoMind. And then you can repost it, whatever you want to do with that. I'm happy to do that. All right, let's look at this. This is the resonance experiment now. Ahriman! Ahriman!
You'll learn.
Bombarding me with your ads. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. 3, 6, and 9. So this machine is called a resonator, and then the resonator creates specific vibrations which can be tuned, and you can literally animate and move matter. Like so. So that's what it is. Yeah, this is the pitch. That's the pitch and the frequency. The salt. Random salt, right? Then you have a tone generator, and as the pitch of the tone increases, patterns form more and more complexity. That's fascinating. Oh. That looks a little bit like more complex patterning, a bit more like when people used to set up those campfires and the corroborees in the times when we lived in tribes and chiefdoms. Like that type of rock art. More and more complex, more beautiful, more harmonic. So there you go. There's more to that, but I can post that in the link down below. Seen that before, 2x? Yeah. But basically the point is keeping your frequency high is also what protects you. Affirming your day-to-day living. What you speak goes into the ether. What goes on into the ether goes into the cosmos, into the above. And then what goes above goes down below into the physical realm. And that also includes what goes without also goes within. And what goes within also goes without. So the laws of alchemy are all interconnected with all of this. And most people always remember as above, so below because of Aleister Crowley. But people tend to forget as within, as without is also a big part of it too. That's why the litigation spirit is so dangerous, because you limit yourself to oaths and tithes and titles, but it's not coming from a place of the spirit and the soul. It's coming from a place of the physical obligation. I hate YouTube ads so much. You know what we're going to do on this channel? We're going to blame Ahriman for ads. Take that, Ahriman. Take that. All right, guys, that basically, yeah, I know he's going to go live soon. I know JC's going to go live soon. I'm going to be there. And that concludes the stream. It was a bit longer than I wanted it to be, but it kind of evolved on its own, I guess. Thank you guys for being very patient and for listening to my schizo shaman craziness and this discussion about Ahriman and the Lucifers, plural. There's more than one. But I'll see you guys over into the next stream, and I wish you the best. Remember, humanus invictus. The human spirit is not conquered. Humanus invictus. Go out with wisdom and your power and your real and your prana and your chi. Psycho Mind, thanks so much for streaming today, Dennis. We need more schizo streams. Please take care of yourself. Thank you, Psycho Mind. It's very hard to stream on the Monday to Friday schedule that I have. And I'm out in public in Sydney. I can't really stream anywhere. I could try to stream inside the classroom that's not used in the upper floor, but I don't really want colleagues overhearing schizo stuff either. All right, peace, man. Peace, boys. See you over in the next stream.